This is Rock and Roll English. Real people, real English.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 27 of Rock and Roll English. In today's show, I talk to Dan the Man about a subject English people love, which is drinking. And by that, I obviously mean drinking alcohol. But there is some good news. Drinking alcohol can be good for you. Okay, so listen to the show and find out how. Happy listening. Dan the Man, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. Has the cough finally gone? Can you guarantee you will not cough in today's episode?
I want to cough now, so no. Can I cough now quickly?
No. Nice that I want to cough. Connected speech again. I want to. Did you have a good 1st of May, Dan?
Yeah, it was all right. It's a Monday. Did you?
Full of enthusiasm, as always, I see.
Did you?
Mine was fantastic.
Yeah.
I went to my friend's house at the beach and had a barbecue and just had some great things, really.
Yeah. Sounds great.
Anyway, no, it was great. Anyway, so, as always, we're starting with a review. No one has sent me any pictures from outside of Italy, so it's an Italian one. Because remember, I can only see the ones in Italy. So please send me a picture if you leave a review. So it's from Vin $, maybe Vince. And it says, very useful for my English and very funny. I especially like how grammar points and rock and roll vocabulary are explained. Then you can go to the site and do the quiz. Thanks, Martin. Your name is actually not in that, Dan.
I've noticed that. I didn't realise there was a quiz on the website either.
Well, you should go there, Dan, and do the rock and roll vocabulary. Okay? Anyway, today we are talking about an interesting topic.
Okay.
So, did you know, Dan, that drinking, and when I say drinking, obviously, I'm talking about drinking alcohol, not, water, is actually good for you?
According to who?
The correct way to say that, Dan, would be according to whom.
Yes, I know, but...
never mind. According to a ridiculous article I read on the internet, and we are going to look at some of these, okay?
Okay.
Some of these points. Okay, so it can help you lose weight. Okay?
What?
Because it found, there was a study, and it showed that women who drink more than one drink a day are 70% more likely to avoid becoming obese. Remember, obese is like very fat.
Is that because they're not eating?
Actually, a good point there, Dan, because it says the reason for this is unclear, but it could be that they just drink alcohol instead of eating food. So, really good health tips on Rock and Roll English today. Don't eat food, just drink alcohol. When someone does that, actually, we often refer to that as a liquid lunch. A very common thing in England, a liquid lunch, which just means drinking. Okay, so it can make you smarter, apparently. So, according to the British Medical Journal, that sounds respectable. I don't know anything about it, though. Says regularly drinking a moderate amount of alcohol can actually have a positive effect on your cognitive ability.
Really?
Do you feel any more intelligent when you drink, Dan?
Not really.
Well, that's probably because you're not intelligent.
I
actually think this is partly true. If I have like one beer sometimes and I'm reading a book, I do actually feel for a few minutes like I am intelligent. It's strange. It's a strange feeling.
Apparently it relaxes you, so you're more creative if you have one drink.
There you go.
I don't know where I read that, but...
I don't know there. Again, connected speech. I don't know. In reality, though, I do actually think drinking has made me dumber. And when I say dumber, what do I mean, Dan?
More stupid.
Yes, because
and I
the
agree.
word dumb...
I agree.
the word dumb means stupid, so obviously dumber, more stupid. Because before I was quite intelligent, now not so much.
Were you?
Okay, this next point is good though, Dan, okay?
Mhm.
Very important for you. So it improves your sex life, okay? So anything that improves your sex life, Dan, is a good thing.
It is, yeah.
It says that, again, though, moderate drinkers are 20 to 30% less likely to have erection problems. And then the most entertaining part for me is it says a small amount of alcohol can actually improve your erection. I don't know what that means, to improve your erection.
Well, why don't you Google it and find out?
Yeah, I don't know if it means, bigger, or I don't know, but it can improve an erection. Also on the article was a statistic which I don't think is true. It says 75% of sex happens under the influence of alcohol.
That's quite a lot.
That's way too much.
Although I think it's more like 90 for me.
Yeah, because the girls have to be very drunk to have sex with you.
Correct.
Because maybe they are wearing beer goggles. So what would beer goggles be, Dan?
Well, when you're so drunk you can't see correctly.
Yes, because goggles are like glasses. They're the sort of glasses you wear in school when you're doing a science experiment. So they're normal goggles, and beer goggles, again, it's when you're drunk and you're not really seeing things correctly. Much like when girls are looking at Dan when they're drunk, they think, oh, he's good looking. And then the next day they wake up and think, fucking hell, what was I thinking going with him?
It probably happens, yeah. Normally I like to move them on quickly, though, so I don't give them much time to find out the truth.
Good, that's so nice of you, Dan. Okay, another point is it makes you invincible. Okay, this is actually quite crazy. It says a 22-year-old Russian man jumped off his balcony after drinking 3 bottles of vodka. That's a lot.
Well, I jumped out my window, didn't I?
Well, when you were asleep. You didn't just jump out because you thought it was a good idea.
I sleepwalked out my window, so that makes me just as hard as the Russian.
Yeah. So he said slept walk, obviously walking when you're sleeping. And when he said just as hard as the Russian, he means physically strong. If someone is hard, they are generally physically strong and someone that you do not want to get in a fight with. Anyway, this person jumped off the balcony, and it was the 5th floor, and he didn't break any bones because apparently alcohol makes your body softer. So on the impact, there was no break. So, if you want to jump off a building, just make sure you drink 3 bottles of vodka before. Okay?
That's great advice, that is. For anyone who's listening.
Exactly. Anyway, joking aside, I don't think alcohol is actually very good for you. In fact, I have some other statistics. This is from government website, okay? So this is credible. That more than 1 million people go to hospital every year in the UK for alcohol-related incidents. So that can be if you have a disease from alcohol, normally maybe liver problems. The liver is the part of the body that is mainly affected. Or what is much more common is people in the UK having fights in pubs and bars and generally acting like animals.
Do you remember when you called me up at 2 a.m. to take you to hospital?
This is exactly what I was just about to say, actually. So I was one of those people once, more than 10 years ago. And yeah, I got Dan to take me to hospital for some injuries that I sustained. But that story, it was unbelievable. I was sitting on a bench with my friend. We were eating some chips and a burger, a nice healthy meal after a night's drinking. And these, hard guys, remember strong guys, much bigger and stronger than us. We were about 18, surrounded us and said, "What are you looking at?" Well, not a lot. And they're like, "You're fucking looking at me." I said, "Well," at first I said, "No, I'm not." And he put his face right next to my face and said, "You're fucking looking at me."
Well, now I am, yeah.
Well, and I thought maybe if I say something funny, it could help. So I said to him, "Well, your face is right in front of mine. I can't see anything else." And as it happened, he didn't find it very funny and started punching me and my friend. And yeah, so that was a great night, spending the night in hospital with Dan the man. But it was very kind of you to take me.
Well, I know. Yeah, well, I hadn't even been out. What a great friend.
Yeah,
I clearly
Dan
am.
was sleeping and I called him to take me to hospital. So,
Yeah.
Thanks, Dan. I owe you one. If someone says that, what does that mean? I owe you one.
You're in my debt.
Yes, I have a debt of a favour that one day I will return. So another statistic is that 30% of all violent incidents in the UK happen in a pub or a club. Okay, what that says about our nation is just embarrassing. The problem is, though, the culture. Wouldn't you agree, Dan?
What, binge drinking?
Yes. Oh, that is rock and roll vocabulary. Exactly what I wanted to say next, actually. So binge drinking is a big problem in the UK, and it is generally when you drink a lot. So if you drink, a glass of wine, is that binge drinking, Dan?
No.
If you go out and drink 10 pints of beer, is that binge drinking?
Yeah. Not that you could drink 10 pints of beer.
I have drunk 10 pints of beer only one time in my life, actually. I remember it very clearly. Well, the fact that I drank 10, because I was at university and on a Wednesday there was a special night, £1 a pint, and I only had £10 because I was so poor, because I was a student. And I drank 10 pints, baby. So
Well, how did that night end?
I woke up with a scarf. I don't know where the scarf came from. But yeah, it's part of the culture, though, don't you think, Dan, in England, how much people drink?
Yeah, I think it's changing, though, I heard that is changing.
I mean, especially at university, like everything is just centred around drinking. And it's just embarrassing. I remember when I came to Italy, and my ex-girlfriend and I were invited to a party, and so being English, I brought 20 beers to this party. It was like university students, and when I arrived, everyone was cooking, and I thought, what the fuck is happening here? Because in England, well, I went to many parties at university and I never saw any food once. A maximum some crisps to nibble on. What does it mean to nibble, Dan?
It's when you're eating finger food, like when you're, little bits and pieces.
Yes, exactly. Things like crisps. And I have another statistic, actually, about how much people drink. It says 1 in 5 people in the UK drinks at least 5 days a week.
That's quite a lot.
At least. That is mental, isn't it?
That's true, yeah. I mean, how much is it? Just one drink, or is it?
I don't know. Maybe they're binge drinking. But how much do you drink, Dan?
Maybe 1 day a week.
But do you binge drink when you drink?
I don't really enjoy it anymore, so not really. No. Do you?
Same, but I mean, it still happens. Every now and again, I will binge drink because it's just part of me. It's part of my culture. I cannot stop myself.
When was the last time you threw up because of it?
Oh, nice rock and roll vocabulary there. Threw up, past of throw up, which means to be sick, to vomit. Oh no, I haven't been sick in about 10 years.
Oh,
and
sorry.
so present perfect there. I haven't been sick in about 10 years. Action started in the past, still in progress, Dan. And you, last time you threw up?
Probably about 4 years ago at my friend's wedding. Not at the wedding, when I came home.
Nice place to throw up at a wedding. But as you were saying, like, you don't enjoy it so much anymore. It's the same as me. I try to avoid it because I don't enjoy having a hangover. And so what is a hangover, Dan?
It's when you feel sick the next day from drinking.
Yes, exactly. Like, they're just too much for me now. I cannot deal with it. So what's the stupidest thing you've ever done from drinking, Dan?
Well, probably walking out of a window.
Right, so you had been drinking before?
Yeah, absinthe.
Dangerous drink.
But other than that, I mean, I don't know. That tops it all, I think.
Oh, a nice term there. That tops it all. That beats everything. That arrives first. I have done many stupid things, many of which I do not want to talk about. Dan already brought up me doing a poo in the street. But I said that was exceptional circumstances. And he spoke about that last episode. So you can listen to that.
Didn't you walk out of a restaurant without paying?
Another story, yeah. I have spoken about that on a podcast called Going to Prison for Some Pasta. So if anyone's interested in that, they can listen. But one of the stories I think is okay to tell was when I was at university. And so I was living with a friend and I had lost my keys. So I asked him, can I take your keys? This is after the night. So it's about 2:00 in the morning. And I said, just ring me when you get home and I'll answer the door. So he gave me the keys. I went home and then he was ringing me about 3:00 in the morning. But obviously I didn't wake up. So I had lost my keys and then he had to sleep outside on the street. So, yeah. That was an enjoyable time. But yeah, so that's just unfortunately part of English culture about we love to drink. Anyway, I have to go now, Dan, because I'm going to drink a few bottles of vodka and jump off a balcony. Okay?
Is that what talking to me does to you? Yeah.
Yes. Exactly. And I'm sure all the listeners feel the same listening to you. But remember, listeners, if you do jump off the balcony, drink 3 bottles of vodka.
Correct. Okay? That's good advice.
Okay. Right. Well, thanks as always for your time, Dan the man.
Cool. I'll speak to you next week.
I'll see you soon.
See you later.
Bye-bye. Okay, so that was Dan the man and me talking about drinking and how it's good for you. So let's look at some of that rock and roll vocabulary. We had dumb, which is stupid. But remember, we said dumber, more stupid. There's actually a famous film called Dumb and Dumber, if anyone's interested. Goggles, which remember is sort of like the glasses, the safety glasses you wear for like a science experiment. And a slang term when you're very drunk. And maybe you go with a man or a woman who is not the most beautiful, we say you were wearing beer goggles. And we had sleepwalk, which is obviously when you walk when you sleep. The word hard in this context, if you are a hard person, you are a strong person and someone you don't want to have a fight with. I am definitely not hard, for example. The liver, which is the part of the body that gets damaged if you drink too much. A very nice term is I owe you one, which is I owe you one, which we say when we have let's say a debt of a favour. For example, if you leave me a review, I will say, thanks, I owe you one. I owe you a favour. The word nibble, which is like to eat with small bites. Remember, we use some food just to nibble on. Often birds, for example, nibble their food because they just take small bites. Like we nibble on things like biscuits, these kind of things. Another great term was throw up, which means to be sick, to physically vomit. And if you drink too much, what do? You throw up. Hangover is a very, very useful word in England, which is the horrible feeling you get after drinking when you feel sick the next day. Often, maybe, you will throw up. Dan said the term "that tops it all," which is another great rock and roll piece of vocabulary, which means that's the best. I could say, for example, I have been to many places in the world, but for me, Thailand tops it all. It was the top of the list. Okay, so that's everything for today's show. Sorry if it's a bit longer than usual, but us English hooligans love talking about drinking. As always, please remember to leave me a review and to send me the photo, because remember, I cannot see it. And then I will read it in the next show. Go to the website, rockandrollenglish.com, and you can see all of this rock and roll vocabulary and do an amazing quiz. Okay, have a good weekend and speak to you on Monday. Rock on, baby.
Thanks so much for listening to Rock and Roll English. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit rockandrollenglish.com and facebook.com/rockandrollenglish. We'll catch you next time.